Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our June 17th meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. Before we begin, just make sure that your phone is silenced and that it will not interrupt our flow of business this evening. We always begin our evening with a moment of silence, and tonight I am holding this moment of silence in memory and honor of the shooting victims in Minnesota and the members of the legislature there. So please join me. Thank you so much. And if you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smith, announcements.
States. Next up, I don't know if y'all have been outside lately, but summer is certainly here. It is here and it's here to stay for a while, so Mecklenburg County is making sure that those among us in need are being taken care of. So starting tomorrow at 9 a.m., Mecklenburg County residents who are 60 years and older or adults who are ages 18 to 59 and receive disability income can register to pick up a fan. Register is available online at mecnc.gov or by calling one of the 9 pickup locations. It's important to know that fans are limited to 1 per person, and you must register in advance. So again, I want to make sure this stays on the screen for just a minute. To register, you can go online to mecnc.gov or call one of the 9 pickup locations beginning tomorrow at 9 a.m. The pickup locations are Almar Road Recreation Center, David B. Waymer Recreation Center, Eastway Regional Recreation Center, Mallard Creek Recreation Center, Northern Regional Recreation Center, Southview Recreation Center, Chagall Creek Recreation Center, Tybola Senior Center, West Charlotte Recreation Center, and the numbers are out to the right, and I will not read off all those individual numbers, but the addresses and numbers for those are right out to the right, and that is all I had for you tonight.
Is this posted on our, as a partner notice on our social media, et cetera?
Yes, so since they're a government organization, we are waiting for them to share it online first, and then we will duplicate what they share to our channels.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Dumas.
I didn't send these to you ahead of time, but just want to make sure everybody's aware. 2 exciting events happening this week. On Thursday, there's our kickoff for Lala Kabusa, which is a music festival we do on Thursdays during the summer, once a month? Yeah. And this week, Thursdays will be Juneteenth. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Food trucks, drinks, live music. So come have fun, bring a chair and a blanket. And then on Sunday, Huntersville's first ever Pride will be from 1 to 6 in the same location, Veterans Park. That's not a town-sponsored event, but it should be very well attended. We're looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Other questions, additions? All right, thank you. We have 2 proclamations today. Our first one is for Parks and Rec, which I think without fail is the most popular asset of our town. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the state of North Carolina and the town of Huntersville. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, natural areas, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming, events, and educational activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas the Huntersville Parks and Rec Department was created in 1995 and now serves more than 2 million visitors per year to its local parks. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our state and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Huntersville recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim July as Parks and Recreation Month in the town of Huntersville. And our second proclamation is for Juneteenth, another very important day. Whereas on June 19, 1865, in Galveston, Texas, over 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln declared all enslaved persons free, Mayor General Gordon Granger and Union Army troops enforced the Emancipation Proclamation and freed the last enslaved Black Americans. And whereas, free from the bondage which immorally deprived them of human dignity, their long overdue emancipation was celebrated on Juneteenth, and this year marks the 160th year of Juneteenth, the oldest known celebration commemorating the abolishment of slavery in the United States. And whereas this nationally recognized holiday is an opportunity to celebrate human freedom, reflect on the grievous and ongoing legacy of slavery, and redirect ourselves to rooting out systemic racism that continues to plague our society as we strive to deliver the full promise of freedom and equality for all Americans. And whereas, as we celebrate Juneteenth, let us recommit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice, remind ourselves of the centuries of struggle, courage, and hope that have brought us to this time of progress and possibility, and ensure that the events of 1865 are not forgotten. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim the 19th of June as Juneteenth Day in Huntersville, North Carolina. Mr. Shook is coming to present for the Environmental Sustainability Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody hear me? Okay. So my name is Jeremy Shook. I'm the chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. And I'm going to be talking tonight about, just to get an overview of the committee and talk about the goals that we have, that we plan on pursuing for this year. So just to refresh, for those who may not be aware, the town board instantiated the committee in 2024, and the purpose of this committee is to serve as an advisory committee to the town of Huntersville Board of Commissioners on matters related to environmental sustainability, and to advise on actions that the town may take to support environmental sustainability. As part of that original purpose, the committee was initially tasked to develop a sustainability plan. After kind of partway through the first year in 2024, it was decided to basically kind of put that on hold and look to bring a consultant in to do that work. Right now, the town staff is still looking for trying to get grant funding to help the support to bring on a consultant to do that work. So the plan right now is on hold, and we're still working through trying to get that going. So 2024 was really kind of a formation year, trying to figure out what the direction was, which we were going. Coming now into 2025, we've organized in subcommittees and we've developed goals, and we'll be presenting those this evening. So just a quick overview on the organization. So our liaison to the commissioners is Mayor Pro Tem Jennifer Hunt. Bobby Williams is the town staff liaison. I'm the chair, Diane McLean, who was previously involved with the Greenway Commission, is now the vice chair, just newly elected last week. And then we've organized into 3 committees, or subcommittees, I should say. So the first is community engagement. Dan Fogel's the lead, and Tim Sanborn, who was also previously involved in the Greenway Committee, is on that. We have a second committee, energy, water, and waste. I'm leading that. Priya and Dana Hicks are on that one as well. And then lastly, environment and infrastructure. And this subcommittee is really around either what we can do from an environment perspective, like natural, like trees, for example, or infrastructure, buildings, roads, and that sort of thing, how that all can affect sustainability. So Diane McLean is the lead, and we have Anne-Marie O'Neill, Tricia Knight, and Tim Sanborn. And my understanding is tonight we'll be approving a ninth member, since we had one just vacate. So we hope to recruit them to the communications committee. So we'll see if that's successful. And just one note: the general idea is that the two subcommittees on the right, energy, water and waste, and environmental structure, will kind of develop content and then provide that to the communication subcommittee for then engaging with the town residents on helping people learn more about what they can do. So for this year, we've come up with the following roughly seven goals. So we have one for community engagement, which is basically to increase the visibility of sustainability issues within the town of Huntersville. So a couple things we're going to be doing there. One is within the town newsletter, every month we're going to start sustainability, Sustainability Corner. We're basically going to provide some content, some insight on things that people can do, maybe how to reduce energy use or water or waste use, for example. Secondly, we're going to be working with Ethan and the town communication staff to basically build out a page on the town website where we can have more permanent information around sustainability issues, where the residents can go and access information more on an on-demand basis. For example, potentially putting information on solar programs for residential, again, information on maybe audits, energy audits, things like that people could go access. And then we also plan to engage the community through various events. So we'll probably start piggybacking onto existing events, like, for example, the Wine and the Vine event that the Greenway Commission does. And then as we start to develop more content, that will maybe have specific events where we can host people around, potentially around like a themed event around wildlife corridors, for example. So in energy, water, and waste, we have three goals. First is to develop educational materials for the town residents. Again, that'll get pushed to the communications committee. The second is we're going to have 3 cleanup days in the town. And whether it could be at town parks, greenways, creeks, particularly water is usually a really key issue for cleaning up. So, and we're going to be partnering with the River Keepers organization as part of that. And then the third goal is to identify opportunities for sustainable energy production within the town. So I'm an energy consultant, so I'm going to be leading this one. Ironically, I'm doing a similar project for the town of Huntsville, Alabama, so I always have to keep, whether the ER is in there or not. But we'll be looking at things like landfill gas, wastewater gas production, which are sustainable biofuels, for example, solar, obviously. So we'll be looking at opportunities, and that will result in a presentation to the town board on ways that we can move sustainable energy production forward in the town. Then the last subcommittee, we have 3 goals. The first is determine opportunities for developing wildlife corridors. So wildlife corridors, basically, if you have 2 natural spaces, providing a way for those 2 natural spaces to connect to allow wildlife to pass freely. So we'll be looking at ways that could, things that we can do in the town to help with that. Secondly is to launch a treasure tree program. So currently Mecklenburg County has this program. We actually had a presentation from them last year on this. And so we'll be looking into launching that. Again, that will, this goal will result in a presentation to the town board as far as how that would be done. And then lastly is looking at opportunities to enact sustainable building and structure demolition practices within the town. And again, that'll be a bunch of research that will then result in a presentation to the town board that will look at, potential recommendations for zoning changes and things like that. So. So those are our goals as we have them currently. We just voted to approve the last goal at the last meeting. So as a committee, we've approved all these goals. But we wanted to come here tonight to get feedback from the board and also the folks here tonight to see if there's any thoughts or comments as far as what we're doing so far.
Well, I'll start. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great presentation. I want to say that I appreciate you all breaking it down into subcommittees. I think that is really good. definitely hits targets of things that we need focused with our environmental sustainability. One of my questions were your cleanup days. Have you all thought about going into certain communities that may not have like HOAs or anything like that to assist with cleanup?
That actually came up at the last meeting, and I forget, Pottstown. There was a resident from Pottstown who was there on a somewhat different issue. But when basically there was a connection made, like, hey, maybe we should target, that committee. So there was actually a discussion about looking to target that. So I think that's now on the table. So yeah, we are thinking about that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the presentation. Any other questions? Commissioner Bursman?
Yeah, I was just wondering on your third goal for energy, water, and waste, and I can't believe I actually said that without messing up. I was curious if you've had any conversations about collaborating with electricities and helping, get out the word more and pushing their solar program.
So not yet, but that's going to be part of the work for that goal is, I was actually just talking to Bobby about this before the meeting. So what we'll do is, there's kind of two parts to it. First is looking for what we use the term primary energy sources. So what are forms of primary energy within the town boundaries? So solar, landfill gas, wastewater, biogas. And then secondly, then to engage with the local utilities here, Electricities, Energy United, to figure out, looking at, basically what kind of role that they would want to play. There's different ways to do this. Maybe sometimes like the water treatment, the wastewater treatment facility would own the digester and the turbine to make the electricity, and then Electricities would buy it, or there's just different arrangements. So yeah, we'll be interacting with the local utilities as part of this effort.
Great, yeah, and the reason I mentioned Electricity specifically rather than Energy United or Duke is since that's more in-house kind of, so I feel that it would probably be a little easier to work with.
Okay, yep, no, we'll definitely do that.
Jeremy, thank you for giving that presentation. I love all of these goals, and I'm especially excited about the wildlife corridors and the treasure tree program because people have reached out to us about those things, or at least me. So I'm really excited to hear your progress on those items.
Great, thank you.
Very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we have 3 public comments this evening, and we're going to start with Christine Wallach. You have 3 minutes.
I wanted to talk about the size of the affordable housing units that were presented in petition R2407. Staff had already requested that the affordable units should not be segregated into the same building, but it looks to me like the applicant just plopped an apartment building into an existing plan in order to satisfy the affordable housing request. And they already admitted that these affordable units were half of a unit compared to the other units in the plan. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something about looking from the outside like it was a single unit, but there would actually be 2 inside. And also, when I looked at the plan online, it was clear that this building where these units would be segregated is smaller than the other townhouse buildings. I took out a ruler, and the other buildings were 40 millimeters deep on my screen, and this building was only 30 millimeters deep. So it fronts on parking spaces, which makes me wonder whether the units are actually townhouses or if the parking is outside and that's how they're able to save some space. But depending on which you go by, it's either 3/8 of the size of the other units or up to 50%, but that's still, how is that even distinguishable from market rate units, excuse me. So I don't think that really satisfies the intent of the affordable and attainable housing goals, and I asked the board to take this into consideration when making the decision. I do want to thank the board for pushing for these attainable and affordable housing units in the new developments. Every job has value, and people that work in Huntersville should be able to live in Huntersville. And just because a job is lower paid doesn't mean that it's of lesser value. I also want to say happy Pride, happy Juneteenth. And since I have a minute left about the environmental sustainability, reducing waste, we have things that are recyclable in other places that are not recyclable here, particularly plastics, plastic containers that aren't bottles, that don't have a neck, they don't go in the recyclables. And I would like to see something done about that, but if not, then I think we need an ordinance that says restaurants have to stop using them for takeout containers, reducing it in our grocery stores as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jackson Workman. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here to raise an issue that many people in the community are already familiar with, which is the issue of the Birkdale Village expansion. It's been said by many people in the community that they are against it. I am one of them. I am firmly opposed to it. And I think if there's any chance, if it's not too late to stop this, I think it needs to be taken. I think it needs to be done. I think that in general, the idea of destroying the community, which is what this will do if it happens, is not in the best interests of the town. I don't think it's in the best interests of the people. I think that the soul of Huntersville, in many ways, Birkdale Village is a very big part of this community, and I think that as someone who was raised here, who's lived here my entire life, to see it destroyed would make me personally very upset. I think that it's been said that, the people who are against it are a loud minority. That is not true. I think that I challenge you to find one person who's actually in favor of it, who lives here or who's been a long-term resident. I also would like to just point out the fact that one of the members of Jamestown who owned Birkdale Village has said that this expansion, the goal is to turn it into a perpetual machine. I do not see Birkdale Village or any part of Huntersville as any kind of a machine. I see it as a community. I see it as a place meant to foster people, families, homes, memories, and to replace so many beloved institutions in that town with things like office buildings, parking garages, whatever it may be, is frankly just, it goes against the very spirit of what this community is supposed to represent. And I think that in general, we have people living here from pretty much all 50 states at this point, and they didn't move here to be a part of a perpetual machine. They moved here to be a part of a community. And I just think that with so many people against it, I really don't understand how it's still going forward. I don't know why it was ever proposed in the first place, but I've never really been one for making speeches or going up to public forums or anything like that. This is really my first time, but when it's something I'm this passionate about, when it comes to the very fabric of my home being tampered with, frankly, just gutted, it definitely made me want to come here and say my piece about it. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way in the community, for sure. So since I have about 30 seconds left, I'll just say again, anyone who remotely cares about the town of Huntersville, because it's not going to stop there. They're not going to stop at Birkdale Village. It'll continue to spread throughout the community. If they're allowed to do what they want, they're going to keep expanding and just tearing everything down that's been here forever and that we love about this place. And I just don't want to see that happen. So even if I can't do anything about it at this point, I just wanted to say my piece about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff Locke. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jeff Locke. I am the chair of the Huntersville Greenway Trail and Bikeway Commission. As a committee, we've agreed to put a couple of conditions on our approval for the Everett Keith development that's going in soon. I'm here tonight to personally emphasize and explain one of those conditions. We gave our presentation before the board a couple of months ago. I don't believe we talked about our next big priority that we're kicking around in the committee, which is connecting to Charlotte. We've talked a little with the county, and we've explored some options, and the best option is on the east side of Huntersville. That connection goes directly through the Everett Keith parcel. It's going to tie in, hopefully, eventually to the Mallard Creek, Clarks Creek, Toby Creek Greenway system. Charlotte is currently building connections from that to Little Sugar Creek. That's going to form what we call the seam, or the Charlotte to Mooresville Trail. This is a big, big regional connection, and this is our one spot where we have to connect this. If this doesn't work, it sinks the whole regional system. We looked over the plans. As the plans are at the moment, there's side paths which are suboptimal. It may be the only option due to the treacherous terrain of the power line easement, which is where our line originally went on the map. But even with the side paths, they do not connect through this community. There is no connection from one end of the community to the other. We are putting a condition on our approval that the developers, at the very least, engineer and plan to have a bridge somewhere and have those plans on paper so that the paths can connect. We are recommending on top of that they work with the town to explore funding options. And I would like to say to the developers who understand are here tonight, you should want greenways in your development. It's the #1 most requested facility, most requested amenity in Huntersville. Everybody wants these. It increases property value. It makes the town a nicer place to live. And for people like myself, it's how we get around. This is a very, very necessary connection. And I'm asking the town to review this a little bit more and make sure that this is a condition on the approval. Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to item number 7, which is agenda changes, adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Item number 8, consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We do not have any public hearings this evening. We're now on to item 10A, consider decision on petition R24-07, a request to rezone 107 acres.
Good evening.
Mr. Richards.
Brian Richards for the planning staff tonight, and at this time, I'd like to submit the staff report to the record. As the mayor has pointed out, we're looking for a decision on R2408, which is a application for the Everett Keith site. As Mr. Priest has presented this for the public hearing as well as the planning board, just give a quick overview for everybody tonight. What is being requested is a rezoning from transitional to neighborhood residential conditional district for single-family homes. Here's the site. You can see to the south is a recently approved and under construction light industrial area. This is just west of the Everett Keith corridor. To the southeast, we've got the Dogwood Estates, and to the west, we've got the Brighton development. What is being proposed tonight is a 259-lot subdivision, overall average of 2.44 units per acre. Quick breakdown, 76 attached townhomes, 75 cottage-style single-family homes, and 99 50-foot wide lots, as well as 9 detached larger lots. Someone mentioned earlier this evening about the location of the 8 obtainable units. Those have been spread out across the subdivision, so that's been taken care of and addressed. At the planning board, it was recommended 4 to 1 to 3 for approval. I'm sorry, I think we get that changed. We'll get back to that vote in just a second. There were some abstentions in that vote, but they recommended the approval. Quick rundown of what's still outstanding on this. The developer has agreed to make one alley connection on the north side of Hambright Road. As some folks have pointed out earlier, that there is some very difficult topography to work with out here. I have a couple maps showing some greenway locations throughout the subdivision. Again, we just mentioned the 8 obtainable units being spread throughout, and some notes have been removed per our recommendations. Things that have not been updated, let me go through this list. This has been updated since the update. We're just as of late last week and this weekend. The lot sizes near Dogwood Lane, they're going to stay as proposed in the development. The developer has agreed to the setback conditions that staff has proposed along Hambright Road and Everett Keith, so that's a check mark. They are working on getting their off-site sewer agreement. Of course, if they don't get that, the project doesn't happen. And then there's a question outstanding about the, I'm going to draw this, a nature trail in this vicinity right here. Given some of the other offerings by the developer, staff is okay if that doesn't happen at this time. I'll show you a map in just a moment that shows what they're offering in that area. Thanks, Marcus. Last Tuesday, there was a recommendation by the Greenway Trails and Bike Commission that if the applicant were to offer some of these items here posted up on the right, that they could recommend approval of this project, the acceptance of an alternate greenway throughout the site. I'll have the developer speak to this. They have been in discussion with the county as well to work out some of those details. Construct a multi-use path from the pickleball court down to the public street. They have agreed to that tonight. Construct a multi-use path from the power lines down to Coneville Drive. Again, we'll have a map that's going to come up just in a second. I'll show these things. I will have them speak to the recommended agreement of funding a study. To my understanding, they do not want to fund that because there's just unknown costs to that right now. But I think they can agree to, and I would ask them to agree to working with the town and the county to accommodate these things, and I believe they'll agree to that as well. They have agreed to a 10-spot parking lot, a 1-stall restroom building, and paving the trail down to the proposed park. As what you can see here on this map, as you can see in green are the trails that they will be building. The 2 areas highlighted in blue is where they will donate that to the county for the future greenway connections. That red line to the south has been agreed to this evening to build a multi-use trail. One thing I want to point out too, excuse me, the greenway that's to the south and the east, this multi-use path does extend up to the north as well down to the south for future accommodation of those connections in the system. And so again, highlighting things that they've taken off the checklist was they have agreed to the setbacks along the thoroughfares. They're working with the context-sensitive design of the small area plan. The one thing they're not going to be able to do is meet the intentions of both the 2040 and the Eastfield Road plan. They meet the 2040 plan in that southeast section, but not the smaller Eastfield Road plan. They're going to meet most of the conditions that were recommended by the Greenway, the Greenway Commission, we'll just call them that. And they have agreed to dedicate the park for the Parks and Rec Department, again, working on the utilities and some internal connectivity issues. And let's see, one thing they are working on, we've also requested some off-site improvements that we need to get some agreements in place with DOT. Those are for some potential speed humps or speed traffic calming along Dogwood Lane. It's a short, narrow street. So we're working with the applicant on that. And also a speed study will need to be done with DOT to do that. That will come later. So again, this has been revised since the revision. We could support the project if these items were all addressed. A majority of those items, outstanding items, have been addressed by the developer. And we're here for questions. And I know the developer also has a short presentation and is here for questions as well.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Dumas?
You mentioned the small area plan and the 2040 plan that they're not going to be able to meet the requirements.
A little bit in conflict.
I was going to ask, yeah, so from my observation, they look like they're conflicting plans.
They are.
But the 2040 plan, which would be the priority to follow in your mind?
Good question. Both. Now, I will say this: the Eastfield Road Small Area Plan has some age on it, and it was looking for larger lots. The more current 2040 plan calls for about that 1.5 units per acre density in that area, and has a little bit more flexibility. That small area plan, it takes that high area. So they use the 2030 plan, then we did the Eastfield Road plan. We've replaced the 2030 with the 2040. It's just an difference in age. At some point in time, when we do revise those area plans, that conflict would go away. It's just an existing situation today.
One more question. There was some comment about the connectivity in the alleys.
Correct.
Why is it important that, like, what does the connection in the alleys actually add for us?
It's really day-to-day life. Let's just look at this area in particular. You can see in this area, the alleys do not connect. If this were a flatter, more typical site, you could have these alleys could connect here and here, so you wouldn't have to back up and do certain movements in day-to-day activities. Could be a challenge with trash trucks, Amazon deliveries, those types of things, and really neighbors getting in and out. Due to the power line and the topography in this situation, it's not ideal. I do know we've worked with this developer for almost 2 years on this project now to get it before you guys tonight. They did make the alley connection up to the north. There was some grading challenges, but they were able to resolve that. Some other areas here, you can see these alleys are really just abutting up against a creek, no real opportunity for connectivity. And then on this internal street right here, again, there's a topography issue and a distance issue. Not a great situation for that alley to connect to the street. So again, it's a very difficult site to work with. This plan has changed massively over these 2 years. As far as connectivity goes, it's about as good as it can for this type of product.
Any other questions from staff? Okay, we'll have the applicant. Commissioner Bregzman.
Just one, because I watched a planning board meeting, but it was not recent. It was right after it happened. So I wanted a reminder. Was it the 413? Was it 3 abstentions? Is that correct?
There were 3 abstentions. And just a quick summarization after speaking to the planning board members on that. Some of them did not feel the plan was buttoned up enough for them to make a decision on, so they chose to abstain. An abstention is a positive vote, so it did pass.
All right, any other questions for staff? All right, we'll have the applicant.
Sure. There you go.
Thank you, board, for having us tonight one more time. I'm going to go through, we updated some of the slides just to kind of relate to the current information. So I'll skip through. The applicant is still in VR. Bolton and Mink is still the consultant assisting with this application. Again, from a contextual standpoint, we've got Hambright, which dead ends into Everett Keith, which is the western bounds of the property. The property is being shown in green there. It's 106 acres. Further west, you've got 115, the future Cats Red Line station, Brighton subdivision. To the north, you've got the construction landfill. Further east, you've got Asbury Chapel, and then to the south, Dogwood Estates and Everett Keith Industrial that's currently under construction. The yellow lines are showing the 2 Duke transmission corridors, the blue being the jurisdictional streams, and then the red dash line is the future proposed alignment of Hambright Road to further down to Eastfield Road. So just a recap of what we had kind of previously discussed, moving through this project, we had several design criteria that we really wanted to achieve. One being thoughtful planned amenities and open spaces, diverse housing options, multiple housing options throughout the development, the initiation of public good, pedestrian connectivity, which we'll go through, and I'll highlight a lot of these kind of in a little bit more detail, environmental sensitivity, and then consistency with the 2040 community plan. So these are our open space areas. We've got a number of varying open space areas that would accommodate any number of people and activities. On this one, this is north of Hambright. So just again, from a contextual standpoint, Hambright is on plan south there. So this is the north section that abuts up against the construction landfill. We've got recreation field in the upper left, dog park, pedestrian passageways to link the townhome sections and the residents through lawn spaces and making it more of kind of a community feel with gathering spaces like a fire pit and outdoor seating. And then on the kind of planned west side, just on the other side of Hedgerows Trail, we've got a green area there which would have kind of like a multi-functional space there, so it could have outdoor games, but again, to be able to kind of relate directly to those townhome units that are directly adjacent. I'm just going to point out that Chamblee Knoll Avenue or alleyway is the one that we connected as it relates to an alley connection. Previously, there was some more steeper grade there, and we were able to kind of solve that and make that connection. So this is just south of Hambright. This is in between Everett Keith and Hambright there. We've got a artistic playground area. We've got earth mounds, native meadow seating area through the Duke easement that then aligns with the wildlife corridor that we have with all the natural stream buffers that lead all the way down to Clark Creek. A half basketball court or a basketball court with a goal. And then as addition to that, we've got seating areas and a lot of pedestrian connections, which was in this area, we prioritize the pedestrian connections over the vehicular. Not only do we have the Duke easement going through with the stanchion that's right there, and I can kind of highlight that as it relates to that. So there are some challenges as it relates to proximity of improvements associated with that stanchion, but we really wanted to kind of emphasize and promote the open space possibility instead of trying to bisect it with the alleyway connections, which then would bring the vehicular movements into the open space areas, which we felt like would minimize the functionality and the ability of that open space to be a real benefit and amenity to the development. This is, so Dayflower actually connects over to Everett Keith, again, from a contextual standpoint. And so we've got a small open space park area. This is just beyond the first stream crossing. And in that, we've got a splash pad, a lawn area to accommodate a multifaceted number of recreational activities. And then we've got a shade structure. And again, we've continued that native planting meadow through the corridor to be able to, again, link to the jurisdictional stream buffers, which again link to Clark Creek. So again, this is moving east. So this is Ruby Falls Drive. Just north off the page would be the Hambright Road extension. We've got pickleball courts located here and then surrounded by vegetation to try to muffle some of that sound. We also have a dedicated parking area to be able to support that use. This also gets somewhat updated. This was our open space plan, but as we've continued to have communications with county and town parks and rec, there are some updates associated with the area surrounding this. These are two open space green areas. This is on the eastern side, so this would be the extension of Dogwood Lane. These are intended to be more kind of natural areas. So they would have green spaces and a lot of vegetation with access to two public streets. So as Brian mentioned, we have 259 for-sale homes, 76 single-family attached. That's the 29% of our total for-sale product. That's in the kind of reddish color north of Hambright. In the orange, we've got our 75 detached cottages. So these are detached but alley-fed product. And then in the yellow, we've got 108 detached single-family homes, which range from 50 to 100 feet in width. On this one, it's hard to kind of pick up. There are A's shown on the lots, but I've got another slide to recognize the 8 attainable housing units and how they've been dispersed throughout the project. So these are architectural elevations associated with the varying products. So upper left is the attached townhomes. The upper right would be the cottage homes, which again are alley loaded. And then the two bottom product illustrations are associated with front-loaded 50 and 100-foot lots. There are several architectural features that we're committed to in the submittal, those being front porches, covered stoops, hardy siding with brick and stone accents. And there are a few others that were noted in the submittal package. So this is kind of and it looks like some of our colors kind of shifted over some of our words, but I'm going to go through just to kind of highlight. So in the gray, we've got the Hambright Road extension, which is extended to the Duke easement. We previously talked about the fact that beyond that, there's some question about the alignment and what Duke would allow as it relates to crossing that Duke corridor. So the gray is constructed. The yellow portion would be a dedication of additional right-of-way to accommodate either alignment that gets passed based on an additional kind of policy study. The one being the directly straight across, or the other one which basically has like a little bit of a reverse curve, so a little bit more of a skew to it to meet Duke's requirement for a crossing angle. On top of that, there's a fee in lieu for construction cost contribution to be able to build out the extension of Hambright Road to the property boundary. The purple section up top would be the dedication to accommodate the town's greenway based on the 2024 Greenway Master Plan, which shows that alignment to follow that eastern stream section that basically then kind of ties down into the park area there in the green. The blue area, and again, I apologize if it's harder to read on the screen, but the blue area is the dedication to the county trail and land. So those would be, essentially, there are two different options in our coordination with the county and the town. Based on the previous discussion, the original alignment actually just followed the Duke corridor. And based on the fact that there's a lot of topography, there's multiple stream crossings in those locations, what we've heard is that that was not likely feasible to make those connections as it was previously planned. As the project, we're building a lot of this infrastructure already with multi-purpose paths on one side of the road. And that green alignment that's dashed essentially accommodates two different options. And there were two options presented by Mecklenburg County. One, if and when Hambright Road gets extended, that would provide a multi-purpose path that would then get you to the other blue dedicated property that's on the eastern part of the project. We are also constructing that portion going kind of southbound on that to that blue section already in that project. So it would basically be that yellow part extension would be the future. And then the second one would be coming down, and here you go, I'm just gonna write. So the second option would be if it came across and came down and followed this section. So we're essentially accommodating either option based on the dedication or construction of the multi-purpose paths. And that was based on coordination that we had with Mecklenburg County. There you go, thank you. The green area on the bottom right-hand corner is the plus or minus 10-acre tract of property that was being proposed as dedication of a park. On top of that, we had the construction of the 10 parking spaces, the single bathroom, and the paved pathway to the pond from the parking area. Let's see, so the orange on there is how we've dispersed the 8 obtainable units. So you've got 4 within the townhome section and 4 within the cottages. So those are located on the plan for reference there. And then those are all the same product type that we are proposing in the rest of the site. And then the last one in red are the 2 areas that we had identified based on feedback that we had heard in our community meeting, which were how can we slow down or create a opposition to kind of a cut through from Dogwood Lane through the property. And that was based on the Dogwood Estates community. So we have a raised pedestrian crossing, which is that kind of red dash on the bottom there. And then we added a mini traffic circle in coordination with town staff to be able to add another kind of slow down metric or calming measure to be able to kind of mitigate that kind of cut through or picking up of speed. On top of that, we also have on-street parking throughout a lot of this development, which tends to kind of narrow the street section and make cars slow down as well. So this is pedestrian connectivity. Throughout the site, we have approximately 2.3 miles of multi-purpose paths, and those are being shown in the kind of gold color. Those are constructed by the applicant. The green path is, and so those gold lines actually link all of the 23 acres of urban open space that are being proposed by the applicant within the development. The next section down are basically the town and county greenway initiatives, and that's that green line again, along with the purple, which is what we are looking at is the 2 now that yellow became purple because it would be a dedication to the town as it relates to the extension of Hambright Road, and then the 2 blue areas, which would be Mecklenburg County dedication. Environmental sensitivity. Nothing has really kind of changed since we were here last. We still had this at the front of mind to minimize vehicular and pedestrian crossings. Obviously, there's a lot of topography on the site, so any crossing would really start to take out additional existing vegetation. And most of the mature vegetation throughout the property is located within a lot of these buffer areas. So we really wanted to maintain those, again, to kind of emphasize the wildlife corridors that exist today. In areas that the perimeter area is much thinner, we're proposing to revegetate that perimeter buffer, and we've got cross-sections in there with the amount of vegetation that we'd be looking to put within those spaces, and we are showing 30 and 40-foot buffers per the ordinance requirement. On top of that, I mentioned the seeding of natural grasses and wildflowers through that southern Duke corridor, which again allows vegetation throughout that corridor and links up the two jurisdictional stream crossings that lead to Clark Creek as wildlife corridors. There was a correction, so we showed 140 specimen trees the last time. We actually went out on site and evaluated a few of the trees that potentially could have been identified as heritage trees. When we did the evaluation, a lot of the trees, previous ones that were noted as it relates to size, they were done in the wintertime. When we went back out, 2 of the trees actually don't have vegetation and they don't look like they're alive anymore. So that 140 went to 138. And so it's still in that same area. If we could have maintained them, we would have. But the requirement is 29 trees based on the 289 trees that are on site, which is the 10%, and we're maintaining 48%. And then just some updates as it relates to, and Brian's kind of already articulated some of these, but I'm just going to run through them kind of quickly. Updates since the public hearing. Based on the feedback that we heard at the public hearing and the planning board, we've dispersed the 8 attainable units throughout the attached residential and the cottage lots. The note, we added a note about dedication of those areas that we discussed, and some of these things, especially the dedication of the county area, happened right at the time we were submitting, so some of the information is post-submittal. The subdivision note, which seemed to add some confusion, we agreed and already have removed that, and that was part of the last submittal. We added a note about restricting HVAC units that were located in setback areas. Let's see, we added the phasing plan, which identified, I think we talked about this in the planning board meeting, but basically this is that's going to be phase 1, and then anything to the east of that area from property-wise standpoint is phase 2. That did 2 things. It basically kind of committed any construction traffic coming off of Everkeith and Hambright and not up Dogwood Lane, based on the fact that that's phase 1. It also allowed for the number of product that's being associated with each product type to be able to be sold at a rate that's comfortable for the team. And it also essentially delayed any kind of connection to Dogwood Lane. So based on the community feedback that we heard. So, oh, there you go, thank you. We did submit the heritage tree analysis. There are several large trees on site, but none of them actually met the requirement for a heritage tree. We are saving a number of those trees though already. We already agreed, and that was part of the submittal, that we would reduce the build-to line. So as a part of that last submittal package on June 4th, it did commit to the same standards associated with Stony Brook Station. I mentioned the Chambly Knoll Alley connection per staff's recommendation. Okay, that was good. I was on my last slide. And then that's just the commitment to the 10 spaces and the building and the trail associated with the park improvements. So there you go. I was almost on time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Hunt?
I want to talk about the speed humps again, and Brian mentioned that there was some communication with NCDOT. And so I just want to get some clarity on that. Is that something that you would preemptively fund? Because I see that the traffic circle that you have there and the raised pedestrian bridge, that's already when you're in the new development, but I don't know how that's going to necessarily slow people down who are coming from Dogwood if they take that kind of circular route to get into the neighborhood, if that makes sense. So can you talk a little bit about that, the speed humps?
Yes, so we just found out about that right before we walked in here. I don't know if I can ask the applicant to come up if you want to talk about it. Anything specific associated with that?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Scott Monday, and Bureau Ryan Holmes. We just learned about this development with NCDOT and potentially 2 speed bumps on Dogwood Lane. We have agreed to construct those. Those will be off-site. The on-site traffic calming devices were referred to earlier as the raised crosswalk and the roundabout. But yes, we would be willing to build those speed bumps off-site. All right. Thank you.
I think just as Brian mentioned too, I think that would be based on the fact that they'd be warranted based on the NCDOT study.
Thank you.
Bergsman?
Actually, yeah, now I need a little clarification on that. So you said that they'll be off-site, so the speed bumps?
So, so anything that's on site there would be a town public street. Off-site NCDOT maintains Dogwood to Everett Keith.
Okay, so you're not saying it's into the Dogwood neighborhood?
It would.
Or is that, or that is what you're saying?
So yes, in the Dogwood neighborhood to the south, these are DOT-maintained streets, and we would do a speed study and work with DOT for installation and maintenance.
Okay, do you know if if we've received any feedback from Dogwood residents on the locations of those?
We have not.
Okay.
Commissioner Rivers?
The 8 attainable housing units, I see that you spread those out. Thank you for listening and hearing us. Are those units for sale?
They are for sale.
All of the units will be for sale? Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dumas?
I don't have any questions, but I was really pleased to see all the addition and changes that you've made since the initial review. I like that we're seeing additional connectivity and green spaces and the diversity of housing I've spoken about from the dais before. I like that everything's for sale, including the affordable housing. There's the park. I think I consider myself a pretty hard win when it comes to housing developments, but I think that this one would be a value add considering this is already zoned for housing. We get some control over some of this other stuff that's happening and you're offering and working with us on it. So I'm pleased with what you've come back with.
Any other questions? All right. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to deny rezoning petition R24-07 Everett Keith Residential. The petition is inconsistent with policies LU7, LU7.1, LU8.2, LU9, and LU11 of the Huntersville 2040 Plan, as well as the land use recommendations of the Eastfield Road Small Area Plan. It is not unreasonable and in the public interest to approve the petition because the plan does not follow the land use recommendations of the Eastfield Road Small Area Plan, the design recommendations of the Huntersville 2040 Plan, and is not sensitive to the context of existing neighborhoods.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Walsh?
I'm not going to be supporting this rezoning request. While I'm not against development in this area, this feels like we're fitting a square peg in a round hole. After a year and a half of back and forth and even some changes today, there are still outstanding items, in my view, not supported by the 2040 Community Plan, which include connectivity within the community, residential design principles, transition or blending to the adjacent neighborhood, and some other items.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Hunt?
I recognize that there are some contrary items with the 2040 plan and the Eastfield Small Area Plan, but I kind of look at that as more like a zoomed-in view, right? The Eastfield Area Plan is kind of like a zoomed-in view, and that was developed with the neighbors in that community. And the transition that's not really happening in that area with the larger lots over there, that doesn't strike me as being very thoughtful with the neighbors and what they have requested. And so that was why I'm not supporting this.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yeah, I'll say you've come very close for me to being okay with this project. One of the main things that's still standing in the way for myself is, and I feel like from the planning board, to the present, when you looked at, there were 3 members that felt the need to abstain because of not having enough information to, hearing tonight, just some of the last minute changes. And I don't think it's given the public enough time for public review. So if this was, if these changes would have come about sooner, I could possibly get on board, but not right now.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to deny R2407, please raise your hand. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are on to item 10B. Consider approving the purchase of 2 Seagrave Marauder pumper trucks.
So was there any in opposition to the motion? Did we
There
get that on the record?
1 opposition, Commissioner Dumas. Item 10B, go ahead.
Good evening. I'll try to be quick. Most of you, everybody sees this during the winter retreat. This is one of those things that we just don't, myself and town management just don't come to you and say, hey, we need $1.2 million and we expect you to buy a fire truck. So we plan this out for the next 20, 30 years. And it comes to you when the time is right that we need to make that purchase. So you'll see there in the yellow is what we're going to talk about today. We have about a 2018 fire truck that needs to be replaced. And myself and town management and yourself are planning for station number 5 on Raymond Church Road. You might ask, well, we don't need this truck till 2028. Why are we voting on it today? It's basically going to take 3 years and 8 months for it to be built. So it does take a little bit of time, and I'm glad I'm here today because, we're looking at probably the beginning of 2029 now by the time we get the fire truck. They're usually done within that month or two, never very late. They are $1.22 million, so a total cost of $2.44 million. And again, is to replace one of the older trucks and the future fire station number 5 that you'll see. We are going through the HGAC Purchasing Alliance. It's no different than we buy police cars on the Sheriff's Association. The site has multiple fire apparatus on there, and we go through that purchasing route. It takes us about 7 to 8 months to actually get together as a group, as a firefighter and group, and get a committee together to work with engineers to build these fire trucks. So the ones you see here that we ride in Huntersville, they're a little bit different than Charlotte. They're a little bit different than Cornelius. We build them to what we see as being purchased and built around town. The types of buildings that we're purchasing, the land development that's going on. So it does take a little bit of time, but we do a great job. The 2 fire trucks that will come in 2028, they'll look nothing different than the ones that we came in 2024. The whole idea is that we keep the consistency going, and when the consistency, we are able to drive the same apparatus. It takes less training hours, and it works out very well. I would like to say thank you to Emily. Why I could sit here and build fire trucks very good, and along with my people, I cannot negotiate as well as she does when it comes to contracts. Just never something I had to do, but her being part of the team and being part of the fire, on the fire side and here with you and just looking out for the citizens and how we're spending money, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if there's another slide, but yes, it is. That's what it's going to come out. If you never knew, when the incorporation was around, we would put away about $250,000 in capital improvement money. So when we came over as a municipal fire department, that money came over, obviously, and went into an emergency fund balance, basically for fire trucks. So you don't have to raise no taxes. You don't have to come out of the general fund. The money's sitting there for this type of purchase.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief? Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the purchase of 2 Seagrave Marauder pumper trucks for a total of $2,564,007 per the group purchasing program.
And is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Item number 10C is the budget amendment for the purchase of the fire apparatus. Is there a motion for item 10C?
I make a motion to appropriate emergency services fund balance of $2,564,007 to capital outlay for the purchase of 2 Seagrave Marauder pumper trucks from Seagrave's Fire Apparatus LLC.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Item 10D, consider approving amendment to the Lake Norman Charter School Joint Use Agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Tonight, we are here about the amendment to the Lake Norman Charter Elementary School Joint Use Agreement. Just a quick overview, for those who don't know, Huntersville has relied heavily on joint use agreements for the last 25 years. The first joint use agreement was with Huntersville Elementary School when that gym was built 25 years ago. So just a long history. We currently have 12 joint use agreements with 4 different school systems, as well as American Legion. Those agreements allow public access to 10 athletic fields, 8 gymnasiums, so that's 80% of our indoor court space, 14 tennis courts, and over 500 parking spots. We'll do joint use agreements about anything. We've got a joint use agreement for our dumpster, American Legion. So anything that we have opportunities to save us money and partner with others and actually save them money, it's always a good thing. Benefits of joint use agreements, lower capital costs and lower operating costs. So the last 25 years, we probably saved $20, $30 million in capital and probably $1 million a year in operation. And you all have seen the site plan for the Lake Norman Charter Elementary School as well as Fire Station Number 4 Park. We talked about the retreat. We currently have a joint use agreement for both the middle school, elementary school, and high school. The original agreement for the high school started 20 years ago. That has been extended as we added additional gyms throughout the last 20 years. The new elementary school gym was added to the agreement in 2023, which is under construction. This amendment will add the 6 new lighted tennis courts. You can see in the green squares there at the bottom. 2030 Parks Rec Master Plan calls for 10 more tennis courts by 2030. If you add the 3 courts that now are pickleball, we need 13 more by 2030. So these 6 courts gets us about halfway there. The commitment, town's commitment is $150,000. The overall agreement is not only for the tennis courts, but also for the other 4 gyms. Will be 15 years from the date of the completion of the elementary school site, which is anticipated for us to start using in probably August. So this has already been put into the CIP during the previous retreat of $650,000. The $500,000 was for the gym, $150,000 was for the tennis courts. And also, similar to the Community School of Davidson, we started a tennis agreement with them in 2020. This is pretty much set up the same way. There'll be a capital reserve fund, so any fees used for the use of the courts will go in a capital reserve fund, and that money will be used to resurface the courts every 5 to 7 years. Looking back now, the first 5 years for CSD, it looks like we're on track to have enough money to pay for resurfacing in 2 years, so we feel like that has worked out well. You don't have to look for additional capital money. That money's in the fund. The Parks Rec Commission then unanimously recommend this amendment to the agreement, and I'll answer any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Jaycox? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the amendment to the Lake Norman Charter Use Agreement?
I make a motion to approve the amendment to the Lake Norman Charter School Joint Use Agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Commissioner Hunt?
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, Michael, thank you for the explanation of the joint use agreements and how beneficial they are. It's just a great public ad, so thank you for that.
I heard this very thorough explanation of what's going to happen, so we appreciate that. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item 10E, consider appointing one member to the Environmental Sustainability Committee due to a vacancy. Let me get my list. Commissioner Bergsman,
Natalie Pavola? That's a dessert, so I probably mispronounced that.
Commissioner Dumas,
Natalie Pavola.
Commissioner Hunt,
Same.
Commissioner Rivers,
Same.
Commissioner Walsh.
Natalie Pavola.
All right. Do I have a motion to appoint Natalie Pavola to the Environmental Sustainability Committee?
I make a motion to appoint Natalie Pavola to the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, congratulations, Natalie. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Item 10F, consider approving agreement for purchase and sale of real property. Anthony Roberts.
Do we have a map, Ethan, to pull up? So talk about the, what we're talking about is the land in green here. I know there's a little green box inside of the big box that, and probably not in the right location. That little green box needs to move a little bit to the right. That is a little natural gas substation located in that little box. The town is considering purchasing this property. What you have before you on this on the agenda is asking permission for it to allow us to do our due diligence on this property. You notice there is no, like a couple items below this, there is no budget amendment for appropriation of fund balance. What we're asking is to allow me to move forward and do due diligence on this property. We're considering purchasing this property for a replacement for Station 2. If all these various things that we'll be looking at doing due diligence works out, like a price and being able to cross 73, all those various things, we would come back and ask for a budget amendment at a later date if we can work through all those issues. So that's what we're here asking for, potential replacement for Station 2.
Any questions? Go ahead.
How long would this process take? Like 60 to 120 days or something like that?
Probably minimum 60, max 120, we hope. So that's a sort of time box to work through some of these issues because they're dealing with utilities, NCDOT, et cetera.
Can you just, for those people who are listening and don't exactly know what the numbers of our fire stations are, say where the current fire station 2 is and how this would?
So I thought I heard you say, where's the current fire station?
Yeah, just for, I think the
So
general
if you
folks
just
don't know all the numbers by heart, so.
go west on 73 from this green square, turn left on Beatty's Ford Road, and it's down on the left maybe a quarter of a mile. I think that station's 1963, and it's needs some love.
Go ahead.
One quick question. Why move to a different lot? Why buy property instead of just building or improving what we already have?
If I had a map that I could show you, it is surrounded, it is encompassed by large power, Duke Power lines, basically, and you just have no room to expand. That station was a volunteer fire department, one of their original stations there that came over when we sort of brought them in-house. And that station, if we could expand there, we would. It's just, it is impossible. Chief, you add anything better than that?
All right, the chief doesn't have anything else to add. Any other questions? All right. Commissioner Bergsman?
Yeah, and also, can you remind me, this is also the station that's kind of responsible for like part of like Lake Norman and Duke and all of those things.
Yes.
She just walked up, right? So you're 100% correct. 1963, it's still on a septic system. We tried to improve the inside the best we could. There's no women's facilities or space for sleeping, so we keep a lot of our women at Station 1 and 4. But we do have women firefighters, and I think they deserve a station that, they can feel comfortable at when they go to work. But yes, they service Lake Norman. They have a fireboat. They also service Mountain Island Lake. So they do both of those. Burkdale community, it depends on Station 2. So bringing it on Highway 73 in this better area, we'd have better access to the Burkdale communities and the growing population that's down that way also.
Thank you, sir. All right, so now do we have a motion for this item 10F?
I would like to make a motion that we consider approving agreement for purchase and sale of real property at 15318 NC Highway 73, Huntersville, North Carolina, 28078.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We're on to item 10G. Consider authorizing town manager to execute purchase agreement for property located at 403 Huntersville Concord Road. Mr. Williams.
Right. Good evening. A quick picture here. This is the parcel in the curve on Huntersville Concord Road, shown here in the green. Ultimately, we've got a project in the FY26 capital improvement plan to improve this curve, maybe a roundabout, maybe a 3-lane section with sidewalk multi-use paths. We're finishing up the engineering on it now, but ultimately, we're going to need to acquire this parcel to facilitate that project. I think it was commented on previously that a couple of years ago, we probably could have gotten this for maybe $350,000. Right now, we're at $750,000 with the offer that's been made, and it's here tonight for your consideration.
Any questions? No questions? Okay. Is there a motion for item 10G?
Motion to approve the execution of the purchase agreement for property located at 403 Huntersville Concord Road.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Walsh is being silly. Item 10G, consider approving budget amendment appropriating fund balance in the amount of $750,000 for the purchase of land, which you just heard. So this is the budget amendment. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, and remind me, I didn't just give the motion for the second one. I didn't just reverse this, did I, Emily? Okay, just making sure.
Yep. So now we need one to approve the budget amendment.
Yep, I got it. Motion to approve the budget amendment. Hold on a second. My thing is being weird. Motion to approve the budget amendment appropriating fund balance in the amount of $750,000 for purchase of land and related expenses for 403 Huntersville Concord Road.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We're on to item number 11, closing comments. Commissioner Rivers? Commissioner Walsh?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Dumas? Commissioner Hunt? Commissioner Bursman? Okay. Item number 12, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.